Hi there, you've joined us right here on Business Tonight.
Alright, time now for the big discussion here on the show this evening. Is this the best cabinet that Modi could have come up with, given the talent pool that he had access to within the NDA scheme of things? Is this a turnaround team, and does this Council of Ministers really clear the competency test? That's the big question we're asking here on ET now. And we've got a special panel joining us over the next 20-25 minutes. Swaminathan Iyer, K.K. Mistry, we've got Adi Godrej, Punita Kumar Sinha, and N.K. Singh from the BJP. Swami, to you first. The big question, is this a turnaround team?
I have seen a large number of Bollywood films with a wonderful star cast, but the film is a flop. So I said it depends on the director, it depends on what is the content, what is the execution. So let us see. So this is a start. We now know who are the guys who are going to be on board. The execution depends. On the execution depends everything. First, a few remarks. What an excellent thing that we have shrunk the number of ministries. What an excellent thing that we don't have a multitude of guys. Because as they say, in the coalition era, part of the dharma was everybody has to have a ministry. Why? Guess why? You have to make money, you have to have a patronage network. So, I mean, you are splitting up more and more departments, more and more, and the outcomes were intended to be adverse. The outcomes were not intended to be a greater efficiency or greater honesty. So, that is getting reversed. That is positive sign. Beyond that, when I see the large number of very important ministries which only has a Minister of State, one gets the feeling of, my God, Modi's centralization tendencies are here. That in these very important things, he wants to have his own way. So there's only a Minister of State, and he's going to have so much on his own plate. It's also very clear that he says, I'm not going to mess around with having various technocrats on my team. A cabinet is politics. It is politics in the United Kingdom, it's a politics in other places. Only in India we somehow have the idea that people like Monte Ahluwalia and Manmohan Singh should somehow be transplanted as technocrats in the cabinet. And he has gone back, and I think that is the right approach.
Ms. Mistry, what are your thoughts? You know, in terms of size, this is one of the smallest cabinets we've ever seen. What's your view on this lean look that the cabinet sports? Do you believe it will help build perhaps more efficiency?
I think it will bring in more efficiency. One is it will bring in more efficiency, and two, it will make it much more easier to be a cohesive decision-making body rather than have a very large number of people where decision-making becomes that much more difficult. So in that sense, the smaller it is, the better it is.
Mr. Godrej, let's talk about the important portfolio of finance. Finance, even corporate affairs to some, is now been merged with the finance ministry, and it goes to Arun Jaitley. Is he the best man for this job, according to you?
I think the move to merge corporate affairs with the same cabinet minister as finance is a good move, because there needs to be a lot of coordination between the two ministries. And of course, Arun Jaitley is, I think, extremely well suited to take charge of that ministry.
Arun Jaitley is well suited for that charge. But the big question, of course, is that he's also been given charge of another crucial portfolio, and that's defense. Let's bring in Mr. N.K. Singh. Arun Jaitley in charge of defense and finance, two very important portfolios. Is this a stopgap arrangement? Surely this is not a wise move, Mr. Singh. What's your view?
Well, defense needs some immediate firefighting action, because I think defense ministry went in a deep slumber in the last 5 years, particularly when the entire effort was how not to have a scam instead of how to modernize and equip India's defense capability in a manner which would be credible and which would be well respected. So I think that defense needs some very quick shake-up. But of course, budget making requires balancing many complexities. I have no doubt that Mr. Arun Jaitley is quite aware, as is Mr. Modi, on the need to take some decisive action which can put India's growth trajectory back to a much higher growth trajectory than what we have experienced as sub 5%. I think that some of the steps which I am sure would be really begin to get reflected in the budget, of which I think the first preliminary indications would come in the joint address of the President to the two houses of Parliament, and that would be the foundation stone for the budget. But I am quite sanguine that the budget will substantially reverse expectations. It would inject confidence, it would lead to green shoots of investment, and it would begin the long haul of reviving India as a credible and as an attractive investment destination.
Swami, defense as well as finance for Jaitley. So for all practical purposes, he's really the #2 man in the Modi government. Is that how you're seeing it as well?
Once upon a time, the Home Minister was regarded as #2. But as we discovered, the moment the Congress no longer ruled the states, the Home Minister could say anything to the state governments and they just wouldn't obey. They were frankly almost helpless. So it was pitiful that, Indrajit Gupta, whom I once respected, he became Home Minister. I said, what are you doing about the police commission reforms? And he replied, I wrote to all the chief ministers and only 2 of them replied and they both said no. So I mean, this is the pathetic state of affairs of a man who was supposed to be the second most important man. So definitely it moved to finance and being driven home doubly. Secondly, the question that you raised, is he the best man? Finance Minister must be a political heavyweight. The important thing is not do you read all the files and do you make all the decisions. There are plenty of technocrats for that. If you go back to that last NDA thing, you had a situation where Mr. Yashwant Sinha would do all this detailed work, burn the midnight oil. Here are the proposals. And when there was a ruckus, he would begin to roll back. One after, he was called Rollback Sinha. And what could he do, poor man? He was not a political heavyweight. It was a coalition. Yeah. They had to listen to other people. When Jaitley says something, there is no question of us having to roll back anything. He should say, I am going to give tough medicine here, and I am afraid the country is going to take it, and we will reap the rewards of this 2 years from now. He is strong enough politically to do that. So we require a finance minister with the political clout to dish out tough medicine. And for that, Jaitley is the right man at this time.
Okay, Jaitley is the right man, says Swami. But Punita, let's talk about, the burden of expectations now on Modi and company. We all know that expectations are sky high. How are you reacting to the names that we've seen today?
Well, I think we probably have time to test the cabinet over the coming months, particularly starting with the budget, which is coming up pretty soon. So depending on what kind of measures are taken in the budget, I think that will send a signal as to how this government is going to operate going forward. But as you saw from the market reaction today, the market was obviously factoring in perhaps more radical changes to the formation of the government. As leading up to the announcement, there was a lot of press coverage on what the cabinet could look like, and this is different than what the expectations perhaps were built up in the media. And to that extent, I think perhaps the markets were disappointed because maybe they were expecting a more radical shift this time around to the cabinet versus the previous governments. So in that sense, the cabinet looks, other than the size, it looks relatively similar.
That's the point, isn't it? It is a disappointment, especially if you consider the expectation that was being built in. Mr. N.K. Singh, comment on that. A lot of fresh faces, not many of them, are the ones with experience. Is this a council of ministers that has cleared the competency test, or is it only a council of ministers who've got portfolios because they are loyal to Modi, they're close to Modi, and they're backed by the Prime Minister?
I wouldn't say that. After all, the Prime Minister is the one under whose leadership this election has been fought. It is under Mr. Narendra Modi's leadership that this extraordinary mandate has been secured. And I think that it would not be inappropriate, therefore, to draw the conclusion that he would want to pick on people on whose ability to perform more than the narrow sense of loyalty was the guiding characteristic. I have seen Piyush Goyal speak in the Rajya Sabha on complex subjects. There's a great amount of homework, domain knowledge, which Piyush has exhibited in all the debates in which I have seen him successively participate. I've seen Prakash participate on environmental issues, making very credible interventions which have brought in fresh issues. I've seen Smriti doing similarly a lot of background work and homework. So I have every reason to believe that the selection of these people was a careful consideration, not in terms of their narrow loyalty to him, but in what value they will bring to the table in terms of managing these complex ministries, where they will use their energy, they will use their ability to do good research, and that they will perform in a manner which will secure the most optimum outcomes which we all expect.
Okay.